Welcome to this week's episode of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. My guest this week is Adam Lewis from BBD Boom. So on this week's conversation, I'm hoping that we get to cover with Adam what it's like to start and co-found a business, which he did in 2016 with his co-founder Emma Lynch. What it's like to run a fully remote business, and Adam is a big advocate of tech. So how can you use systems thinking in your business? I'm sure we'll cover those things and so much more. I really hope you're enjoying the Evolve to Succeed podcast, and as ever, if you are, please rate and review the podcast. It really helps us, and of course hit that subscribe button on your favourite channel. But for now, on with the show. Welcome, Adam, to the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Really looking forward to our conversation. Gonna cover an element of your journey as a kind of co-founder, but also know that you're passionate about systems and systems thinking and how that's benefited your journey, and definitely want to cover that so it can benefit others. And then we'll end with a bit of fun and some quick fire questions. So we should really kick into the conversation. And just, how did BBD Boom come about? What inspired you and Emma to co-found the business?
Well, I always had a childhood dream to run a business. So when I was small, I was buying and selling things, and commerce and business really interested me. And then I spent most of my career in sort of marketing and public relations without an idea of a business and without anybody to set up a business. And one of the things I thought was I never really wanted to go into business on my own.
Okay.
That was one thing I think that was a little bit too much, and I'd want to do it as a partnership. And for years and years and years, that never happened. And then I started working with Emma Lynch, and Emma and I got on really well. She is very much from the sort of client success, dealing with the clients, keeping clients happy. I'm more kind of digital strategy, sales mentality. And we were working together. And I think we had this realization that in marketing, it's really frustrating when you do these wonderful campaigns and you have all the ad click-throughs and all these stats saying this is great, great, great. But did it actually sell anything? Did anybody make any money out of this? And I think that frustration around tying marketing in particular to revenue, or what some people call attribution, was a frustration for us. And then I heard about HubSpot, and I decided to take myself out to the Inbound conference in Boston in 2016, completely speculatively, paid for by myself. And I went there. And day one, I walked into the conference room and I was like, wow, what is this? Who are these people? And I just immediately felt this affinity to this tribe of like data, technology, marketers and salespeople. And I thought, wow, this is something else. This is, these people, HubSpot has designed a set of tools and technologies to solve this problem and many others around attribution. And came back, Emma and I chatted, and we thought, let's just create a business around HubSpot. Simple as that. We had some brilliant advice and support from David and Jonathan at Bright Blue Day. And together we put together a business plan and we just went for it.
Wow. So I was going to touch on that later in the conversation, but it's worth talking about it now. Effectively, you were this kind of spin out from Bright Blue Day, which was a successful traditional agency.
Yes.
You and Emma went, right, this is what we're going to do. They saw that opportunity with you and backed you to go alone.
Yeah. And we are a self-funded business, so we're not actually part of Bright Blue Day, but you're right in the sense that we felt what we're trying to do was very different from that style of agency. We were trying to create a technology company, and I think now we would describe ourselves as an IT service business. Yeah. Okay, so the people that you need to do that, the mentality, the systems and the processes, they're completely different to a brilliant creative marketing business like Bright Blue Day. And so we thought that we need to do something from scratch here.
Yeah. And can you think about some of those early days, what it felt like? Was it just you and Emma in those early days? What were some of those challenges that you had to overcome?
I thought, well, yeah, I mean, I remember day one when Emma and I, we booked some office space and we came in and we sat there and we were like staring at the wall and like, well, now what do we do? Yeah. And Emma, I think Emma's husband sent her a congratulations card, which was put on the wall. So we had like a blank wall and this card from Emma's husband. And we just, we just set about it. We then quite quickly had our first employee, Alicia, and the three of us, we started to build a business. And obviously, there's two parts to that. First of all, you've got to know what, you've got to be able to deliver something of value. You've got to be able to understand what HubSpot is and what customers need. And so we had to very quickly do that. And then we also had to have a growth mindset, a sales and marketing mindset at the same time, because we had to create something from nothing.
Yeah.
And that was daunting. I think, for the first 6-12 months, you live in fear. You live in fear that, is this going to work?
Yeah.
Am I going to be able to pay the mortgage?
Yeah.
I think pride as well, thinking that, and maybe this is what other business entrepreneurs feel as well, is if this doesn't work, is it going to be a bit embarrassing? How do I explain that? Am I a failure?
And sometimes I've come from that secure job, really. And there is always the fallback that if it doesn't work, you just go and find the next secure job. But you're right, actually, that sense of self-worth, pride, is the thing sometimes that gets you through those hard times, isn't it? That you don't want to do that. You don't want to fall back on plan B. Yeah,
and we used to say, this is all or nothing, actually. Although that is true, that there would have been a fallback. We committed to it. We would say, this is it now. This is our livelihood. This is what's going to pay the mortgage and feed the children.
Yeah.
We have to make this work.
Yeah.
And I think having that mindset was really powerful. So it's just a kind of incredibly exciting but very, very nerve-wracking. And then you start to get clients, and then you're very, very busy doing work.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, God, I've got less time to sell.
Yeah.
And you're in this very, very challenging situation. We had a coach actually who said, you need to be spending 2 days a week selling.
Mm-hmm.
How are we supposed to do the work and sell? And we struggled with that, but in the back of our mind was his voice telling us we had to do that. And I think making sure we were always selling and thinking about in the next deal and growing those clients is lived with us today.
Wow. And do you remember that moment of realization where you thought, this is going to work?
Yes. It was when we won our first really substantial client, which was called Lumi Global.
Yeah.
We were brought in by this CMO, Kerry, who we're to this day very good friends with. She then brought the CEO in, a big hitting CEO, it's a multi-million-pound business. And he met us and he took a bet on us.
Okay.
He said, you're the sort of, I trust you guys. I like you. I believe you want to make this succeed. You've got what it takes. And that vote of confidence and that was transformational for our business, because we then not only had that vote of confidence from a big fee-paying client, but we also could make HubSpot work successfully, generate revenue, and it really helps us realize
that deployment actually, this piece of tech actually helps, actually works. So I suppose in those early days you're quite early into that. A lot of our listeners would have heard of HubSpot now, but you were quite early adopters, weren't you? So you're probably struggling with not only starting your own business, gaining traction, but also the market, thinking, well, what's this piece of tech software that's being deployed?
Sounds like a crazy idea now you put it like that. But no, I was convinced that this is the future, because I'm a big advocate of technology anyway. So I will spend money on technology when I don't really need to, because I love technology. But I could see that this had legs. And you're right. So we had to convince people that there is a new way of doing marketing, there is a new way of doing sales that is technology enabled, that allows you to use automation. It gives you better insights. It allows you to do more with less. And in that conference, I was chatting to a HubSpot user who ran a marketing team, and there's two of her, and she said, I'm able to do the two of us are able to do the output of a team of 6 people in marketing. And you heard those sorts of stories, you thought, wow, that is very, very compelling.
Okay, brilliant. And as you look back now, so that was 2016 you started the business, so 8 towards 9 years in the journey. When you look back now, what are some of the lessons, Adam, that you've learned along the way? Well,
the lessons are, first of all, it's been a partnership with Emma and I. So I think if you're going to have a business partner, I think we spent a lot of time understanding each other, and we relied a lot on sort of psychometric tests and those kind of those things like personality types to kind of really understand how we operate.
Okay.
But fundamentally, we brought complementary skills.
Yeah, because you are two different personalities.
Because I know you work with Emma.
Yeah, she's part of the Evolve peer groups and that kind of thing.
Which she's got a lot of value from. She's really, really loved being part of that.
That's nice to know.
And it's benefited the business without doubt. So understanding how we work together to get the best out of each other and complementary skills. I think that's a lesson that I've learned, and I didn't know that going into it. I think the other thing then is having a sales and marketing engine. Having that focus on, where are we getting leads? Are we talking every day about generating leads? Are we talking every day about closing deals? Having sales conversations? Having that mindset is crucial, and it creates friction because we've got to do the work, we've got to look after the team, we've got to do all these other things. But if we're not bringing money through the door, all that's irrelevant.
I had a non-exec Mike, and he used to say you've always got to be putting that oil and that petrol into the engine
100%.
to keep it running.
Yeah.
And it is a mistake, actually, when you've referred to it, that, and it was your coach that in those early days said similar to you, isn't it, that a lot of early stage business owners fail to realise is that they win a client, they're so desperate to serve that client, they're all consuming with that client journey comes to an end, and they're nearly at startup phase again because there is no momentum, there's no new pipeline.
Momentum, that's a huge thing, isn't it? Having that momentum. And I think going back to the systems thinking that we'll talk about, having systems and processes where you're able to see that business coming and have some ability to forecast what's coming, whether that's through marketing or actually in the sales process, and then having processes around, well, we won this client, how do we delight them and how do we now grow them? That's also part of it. So it's not just top of the funnel, it's right the way through.
It's that retention piece as well.
Through the process. But I think the other thing that we've learned, and again, wouldn't have believed it, was the apprenticeship program. So the apprenticeship program has been really, really valuable for us. So we've taken on 6, 7, 8 apprentices over the years, some of whom have stayed with us for 5 years and are now incredible assets to our business. So we very much took the view that we wanted to grow our own. So we've got experienced hires now, but we also, at that point when we didn't have a lot of money, so we couldn't afford these big hitters. We grew our own through the apprenticeship program, and it was challenging because it was like the blind leading the blind at that point, because we weren't that knowledgeable about what we needed to deliver. They were fresh out of college, but that investment in their time, finding the right people, that energy that they were able to bring, it's taught me so much. One of which is it's incredible what, if you spend 3 or 4 years focusing on one thing, which the likes of Tommy and Katie have done at Boom, they become world-class experts.
It's interesting. So an early stage of their career, they're developing, they've got the expertise. And do you think there is, because you were doing something slightly different in that sales and marketing kind of world and in that agency world, therefore not bringing in those people that had the old ways?
Yes.
That enabled you to step forward and be bolder in your approach?
Absolutely. I mean, we're not an agency. We like to remind ourselves we're not an agency. We're a technology consulting business.
Okay.
And so what are the people? You don't need you don't have any creatives.
No.
You don't have account management teams in quite the same way. It's about consultancy expertise, it's about project management, because a lot of our projects are now multi-phase implementations. They're quite technical, and they have lots of bits and milestones and complexities that need to be well managed. So yes, it's a different mindset, it's a different skill set, and so we couldn't just draw on the pool of talent that there is in Bournemouth and Poole area around digital and marketing. We had to go and find and grow our own.
It's interesting. Grow your own mentality, definitely. And how's that impacted on the culture within BBD Boom?
I think, one of the things I've learned about culture is that, you've got sales and marketing and you've got, expertise and all the rest of it. But the thing that binds it all together is culture. Yeah. And I think you especially feel that after you've gone through 10 employees. We're 25 now. Okay. And when you get to sort of 10, it feels like you're now a thing.
Yeah, because up to 10, you and Emma are there, you've got direct influence, they see and hear from you every day. It's kind of that progress, isn't it? But after that, you do need something of reality, like you say, that binds you together.
Binds us together and sets the values and sets the behaviours. So I think having those apprenticeships was brilliant, because they are so committed, and they've staked their livelihoods and careers on our business and our business model. But I also think with culture, and this is something that Emma, again, if it was left to me, I don't think our culture would be quite what it is. But Emma has been able to bring that thinking to it, and it's the small things that matter.
Yeah.
It's remembering everybody's birthday.
Yeah.
People's anniversary.
Yeah.
They've been here a year. I often get texts from people saying, "Thank you so much for the chocolates for the anniversary," and I'm like,
Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Emma, for remembering and getting them delivered on time. So it's those little things as well. Now we've got things like the Culture Club, so we kind of devolve the idea that people want to create events like the book club and get-togethers and virtual quizzes. And I'm actually missing the monthly quiz to be here, Warren, which is just as well, because I normally lose. Especially when Emma chooses a subject, because it's kind of like TV dramas. But yeah, now it has a life of its own, and we want the team to kind of really own the culture and to move it forward.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to talk to you a bit more about culture, because actually, obviously, something the listeners won't know, but you are a completely remote business, aren't you?
Yeah.
So how did that come about? How have you made that work? And how do you maintain... This is quite a big question, isn't it? How do you maintain that culture in a remote working scenario?
Yeah, so I'm amazed about how successful it is, to be honest, remote working. I think we're all...
Were you slightly against it?
I was unsure how you would actually... Yeah, as you say...
So you were nervous about it?
Maintaining culture, maintaining unity and things, and also productivity.
Mm-hmm.
But we actually were 1 day a week remotely anyway, before COVID.
Okay.
And so we had some systems in place to allow us to do that.
Yeah.
So when COVID came, we then just made that 5 days, not 1 day.
Yeah.
I don't really know how we've done it in terms of culture. I mean, there's some things that we do that, have stuck with us. So we have a stand-up call at 8:45 and at 5 o'clock.
Right.
And 8:45 is...
that's every day?
Every single day.
Right.
And what that does is it means everybody's there, everybody's eyeballing each other. We've gone through things where some people historically wouldn't put their camera on. It's like, well, that's kind of missing the point, guys. Let's just put the camera on,
Yeah, be together.
Be together, put the camera on. We talk about any issues. People will then stay on and talk about certain things for the day. And then at the end of the day, we go through everybody's kind of what they did. Top line, in a view that they highlight any issues that are going to roll into the next day, and we do that, and that's one thing that's kept the unity. But we also meet collectively every single quarter as a company, and then individual teams will often meet every month anyway. Yeah. So we do have that. But
you are a proper remote business. I mean,
we're completely remote.
Kind of day and age, there's a lot dragging back into the office full time.
No,
many are hybrid, but you are remote, aren't you?
We are remote. I think part of what. So culturally, I think the same things apply about the little things and about understanding people and listening to them, and caring and having empathy for people's challenges in their day to day and their personal life. I think that doesn't matter whether that's face to face or remote. I think those things still matter. And then in terms of performance and productivity, I think that we're lucky because we have a technology enabled business, so we can track so much stuff. It's not to say we have cameras in people's homes monitoring them. It's, we have clear KPIs that we can track.
Yeah.
Client satisfaction. Are clients giving us reviews? Are we profitable? Are we not profitable? We have, as most professional services firms do, capacity utilization.
Yeah.
Using all those things in a sensible, sort of humane way means that we know our team are working hard and they're getting results for our clients. And so their day is very much down to them, and they have that flexibility to go to the dentist, have a lunch break, sit outside, do the phone calls in the sun, whatever suits them and their lifestyles.
Okay. And it sounds like you've really got it to work, made it to work. You've been growing post-COVID through having the remotes, and those meetings and all of those other things. I suppose, is there one disadvantage that you'd give to the remote working kind of setup that others could learn from? And is there one advantage that perhaps you didn't expect that you've seen?
I mean, I think the disadvantage is you don't have that downtime where you can sit and chat and really get to know each other.
It takes time, I suppose.
And it's time, it's, with video particularly, it's incredibly efficient.
Yeah.
Because we're here to talk about this and then we're going to go off. And from a sales point of view, we thought that if we can't go and visit the clients so much, that's going to be really bad. And then what we found is we can have 5 sales calls in a day, whereas previously we might have go up to London, back, that's one meeting.
Yeah.
Now we had 5. But you just don't have that time to chew the fat.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we miss, and we really get that when we have our quarterly get-togethers. It's much more
that's the thing that starts to bind you together.
You can really feel that. I think what we've learned, again, I go back to my point about having the systems and the processes there, because I sort of feel that maybe there are some managers who feel they have to have people in the business and presenteeism there because they haven't really got a very clear way of managing their performance, and it's easier if they see them doing stuff. Yeah, that must mean they're working hard and producing what we want to. But I think if you've got the systems and processes in place and the metrics, then what does it matter?
Which is a better way, and you can scale then, can't you?
You can scale.
It's easier to scale if you've got we'll come on to systems thinking. Yeah. But you've got systems, processes, KPIs. It's a lot easier to add headcount than if you're doing it just by, are they at the desk?
And they say they're busy.
And they say they're busy.
And they're staying 30 minutes after everyone else has gone. They must be really flat out.
And is there any particular dark moment in this journey that you would... what's your darkest moment, you think, in this journey so far?
I think, like most people, COVID, and thinking, 3 years into our business, we've worked so hard and we're just getting going. Yeah. And now it's going to be taken away. Yeah. And that was petrifying, as I'm sure most business owners felt it was terrifying. And because we hadn't been up and running long enough, we didn't have that confidence that we had longevity as a business. And we thought it could have been taken away there and then. So that was horrible. Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
and conversely, you should ask, when you reflect back now, what's one of your proudest moments
in the business generally?
In the business generally.
I think what I'm most proud about is the fact that we have seen people's careers grow. We've created career opportunities for people, and they've taken those opportunities. Yeah. And they've just developed incredible skill sets. Brilliant. There's people that join the business straight from college who were very, very shy. I'm not going to name him, but we all know who that is. Incredibly shy, and now this person is running stakeholder sessions with 10 senior executives from these big companies about how what they need to do with their CRM and how they need to implement it, and it's mind blowing. So I'm really, really proud of what the team's achieved, and I'm just proud of our our customer base and what we do. So when I'm having a bit of a bad day, if I'm a bit grumpy, I often go onto our reviews, which are on the HubSpot directory, and you look at these 5-star reviews coming in, and it just, wow, that's amazing. We've transformed that business. That client's really happy. That client's highlighting the care and attention that our team's given to them, and that makes me proud.
Brilliant. So it should. And I want to touch on, because you've had, we've talked about the co-founder journey with Emma. I think it's interesting to hear that you've had to spend time to get to know each other. It's really interesting to see that you've used psychometrics to do that. Any hints and tips on making that, because it's nearly like a marriage, is it? It's a business marriage.
It is.
Making that relationship with a co-founder work.
I think so. So some of the tools that I would recommend is 16 types.
Okay.
Which is very much about Myers-Briggs and understanding your personality type. But the 16 types is quite a simplified way of doing it, which is really easy to get your head around. And so you then learn that person's like this, I'm like that. When they do those things, it's really frustrating me. I'm actually misunderstanding it. So the classic thing with Emma and I, from my point of view, is that Emma likes to consider things. Yeah. I have ideas, and I'm like, I've got these ideas, let's do it. And Emma's like, and so that initially, until I understood this, it comes across as like, well, I don't really care what your ideas are. I'm not interested. No, don't ask Emma to make a decision on the spot.
No.
Give her the ideas, and then what happens is my ideas look slightly less good because we've had time to review them and take a step back. So understanding behaviours of each person is really important. And then it's just, it's compromise, isn't it? It's like anything, and it's sometimes saying, well, this is the way I'm looking at it. There's another perspective.
Yeah.
And let's embrace that. And
that
really
gives you the benefit of both minds.
Yeah.
And then that other side of things, you talked about David and Jonathan, who are sort of your non-execs.
Yeah.
What advantages has that been to you, given you were, to begin with a small startup business?
I think the thing about having non-executive directors who have set up and grown successful businesses, in some cases multiple businesses, I mean, that just gives you two things. First of all, it gives you that just the knowledge of how to structure things and how to do things and so forth. But it just gives you confidence, because you've got these guys backing you. You've got these guys. It's like a Dragon's Den scenario, really, isn't it? They've been there, done it. And so when actually, sometimes they surprise you. So with a big hire we made recently for head of sales, it was a big hire, and we were like umming and ahhing. They were like, "No, do it." Yeah. What? Spend loads of money on our new hire that we're not really sure if it's going. No, do it. And it's having someone going, "Come on, you're ready for this. You need to
gain the confidence in yourselves. Off you go."
And we probably would have not done it, and we probably would have been much worse off as a result of not doing that.
That's interesting.
So it's that confidence, and it's someone you can sometimes shoulder to cry on, but just fundamentally about momentum and motion, and they've got your back.
Brilliant. Fantastic. So let's go on and talk about, we've alluded to processes and systems and all of those kind of things. So can you explain to our listeners what the meaning of that kind of terms, systems thinking, is?
Yeah. So systems thinking is really the idea that with a business, it's not, or it shouldn't be looked at as a set of siloed, separate processes or teams or departments, that actually need to look at the whole thing as an integrated engine. And by doing that, you're going to create a lot of efficiencies. You're going to unlock a lot of value that you weren't necessarily seeing. And I think for the customer in particular, they're going to get a better experience.
Yeah.
Now, we've built that business. We primarily focus on the customer experience. So that journey from how businesses acquire leads, how they nurture them, how they convert them into sales, and how they manage them as an ongoing client. That's our piece of the puzzle that we work with. And so when you're looking at, so it's not just technology, it's also the processes. So it's the processes around how we attract businesses to us.
Yeah.
It's then how do we pass those over to the sales team, and what's that handoff look like? It's then how do we pass that information when we win a client or win a piece of business to the finance team and to the customer success team. It's looking at all those things as a continuum, not as independent, disparate
standalone silos, as you said and alluded to.
Hi, I'm Amy from Evolve, and before we continue the conversation, I wanted to take a few moments to talk to you about how Evolve can help you and your business. We're dedicated to supporting businesses through every stage of their journey. Whether you're just starting out, looking to grow, preparing for an exit, we're here to help. One of our services we provide here at Evolve are leadership and management programs for those growing or established businesses with inexperienced managers. You may have worries about team performance and wish to develop the skills of your leadership and management team to continue momentum and succeed. Evolve are ready to help. Visit our website and book in a free call with one of our facilitators to discuss in more detail. All info in the show notes. And now back to the show.
And if you were a startup, clearly you're very tech-minded, you had HubSpot and all of those kind of things and were early adopters. But if you're a startup, when do you think you should start to think about systems thinking?
I would say you need to bake it in from the beginning. So systems thinking is going to help you plan your business a little bit more, and it's then going to help you bolt bits on as you grow. And so I think doing that from the beginning is important. We talk about design a lot, so system design, so processes and technology. So what I would recommend all startup businesses do is do a journey map of their customer. So where do they start off engaging with the customer? How do they talk to them in a marketing sense over time? What does the sales experience look like?
Yeah.
And then what do we do as a customer when they are a customer to surprise and delight them?
Yeah.
And so even if your business is small and relatively straightforward, write it down. We use diagramming tools like Whimsical, great boxes and lines, and just have a look at it.
And just put it into a process flowchart type thing.
Exactly. And I actually I learnt this when I was on a panel once with a very, very senior person from IBM who worked with boards, huge companies. And he said when he goes into businesses, the number one question says, have you got a very, very long whiteboard in your room? Because I want it. And he spends the entire session on a whiteboard writing the customer journey out for them.
Okay.
And then they look at it and they go, that doesn't make sense. Why do we do that?
Yeah.
Why do we have 7 stages in our sales process?
Yeah.
It looks like we only need 3. Why are we not passing information over to the finance people through systems and through integrations? Why is someone taking that piece of paper and then ringing Jane in finance and then sending it over by email and hoping it all gets done?
Yeah.
Why not just integrate that system with that system and it does done automatically? So I'd really recommend, even if small situation, put that out, and then what happens, you can build on it as you grow.
Yeah, and you can just go revisit and build.
Yeah.
So some of the tools that you can use, you've sort of alluded to one there.
I mean, for us, for system design, Whimsical.
Okay.
Really, really simple sort of drag and drop diagramming tool, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah. Okay. And what other systems do you use to make this work within BBD Boom?
Well, we have we have probably 3 core systems that we use. For obviously the Google suite, the email tools and all that sort of thing was critical. But then we have our project management is done through Teamwork, so we're able to schedule work, assign work, look at the status of it, look at time spent, look at budget utilization and things like that. That's a critical system for us. And then obviously HubSpot, part of our success is not just that we are in the HubSpot ecosystem helping clients use it, but it's the fact we use it.
Yeah.
So we've been able to do things like, the forecasting functionality now. We're very sophisticated at forecasting what we think our revenue is going to be in the month and in the quarter, because of the tools that are in the system. And if we tried to do that ourselves, we'd just be making it up. So we've got these tools. So our whole lead generation, sales process, customer handover to the client success team, that's all done in HubSpot now.
Right.
And it allows us to do, just do more things.
And does that tie into your back-end finance system as well?
Yes. So good point. So then we integrate into Xero.
Okay.
So details get sent to Xero, reduces the workload there. We also bring, lifetime value figures and things like that into the CRM. So yeah, from our point of view, having a marketing automation tool, a CRM, and then a service tool, so managing customer queries and things like that, those are 3 critical bits of investment that we would recommend any business takes. Even in the startup phase, you can, with HubSpot, for example, you can scale that right down to per seat, £30 a head, all the way up to some of our bigger clients.
And that all seems very idyllic and sounds like a far better way than managing a business through paper and spreadsheets, which is what a lot of startups and even high growth businesses do in the early days, to the point at which the business gets to a size where things start to go wrong. Some people then start learn the hard way. I've learned the hard way several times. But so that all seems very idyllic, as I say, but what are some of the challenges that businesses face if they're trying to adopt a systems thinking approach?
I think that you've got to have some visionaries in the business that see it, that can see the whole picture. So that's a critical thing. You're obviously going to get people who are adverse to it. They don't like technology. They don't want to change their processes. But what we find there is there's usually a tipping point that if there's 10 people in a team and 5 of them are pro it and there's 2 that are not sure, that the others will eventually come along. Yeah. So that adoption piece happens. I think there's also a challenge with data overload.
Okay.
So it's a massive benefit of systems thinking that we can analyze the performance of different parts of the process. So how many leads are we generating? How many are becoming sales opportunities? How many opportunities in sales pipeline are we converting? Those are all good things. But sometimes you can be overwhelmed with the data. We can have data about any of those stages and all the ins and outs of the different, and it can overwhelm people, and that leads to
there's a huge
inertia.
difference between data and information, isn't there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a problem. But what I would say to anybody starting out on this is do it.
Okay.
So the example you said there of where people eventually come to realize they need to do it, I had a classic example where quite a big company, 200 employees, the sales director, we need to sort out our CRM and marketing system. Why is that? Because I've just been up to a pitch for a big client. I was 5 minutes late. I walked in the door. The meeting had already started, and up on stage presenting was my colleague. So his colleague had basically taken the opportunity, because they don't communicate and there's not a single source of truth about this company. They thought, great sales opportunity. The other person said, great sales opportunity. They both travelled the length of the country and wasted. And not, it looked embarrassing.
Yeah.
So invest the time now in systems thinking.
Brilliant. It's good. And what's next then for BBD Boom?
What's next for us is, we're growing fast. We think we've got a lot of runway in terms of growth. We need to move up market. So we need to move up to bigger clients, more complex implementations, bigger budgets. That has a challenge on the sales side. So the sales side is longer, it's more complicated. I'll routinely talk to like 10 people staring at me on a screen, the decision makers. So navigating that's a challenge. And then delivering, having the skills and the capacity to deliver on those. That's where we need to get to. And then growing our existing client base, having a model where we are better at, we're very good at winning clients. How do we now maintain a longer relationship with them and look at lifetime value rather than just sort of project
the
based.
transactional value piece. Okay. You ready for some quick fire questions? Morning person or night owl?
Definitely a morning person.
Okay.
Without doubt. I'm up at 5:36. I'm not one of these people that then goes to the gym for 3 hours and but I'm up and about, and my mind is like, I've got an idea. I mean, I like to sit down with a coffee and write down my ideas.
Okay.
It's like overnight I've had a reset.
And off you go.
And then I need to go, okay, let's just calm that down and focus on what needs to be done today.
Perfect.
Definitely a morning person.
Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Fake it till you make it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the early days of BBD Boom?
It was the early days, yeah.
Yeah.
I
think that's not, it's the same with most startups, isn't it? Is that you've got to appear bigger than you are.
Exactly. And you've got to back yourself and you've got to sound confident. And that's it. But I think probably the other one I'd say is be guided by your customers, not your competitors.
Yeah, that's an interesting philosophy.
Because I think it's very easy to look on the outside and go, oh, they're doing well and they're doing this and they're doing that. But forget that. Focus on your own swim lane. What do your customers want?
Yeah.
Are you delivering what they want? And certainly in the early stages, you can be quite flexible. You can say, actually, maybe this is a new product. Maybe we need to price this differently. Maybe we need to bring someone else in that can fulfill that. So be guided by them, and don't listen to your customers. I think that's got to be number one for me.
Brilliant. That was a great piece of advice. 3 things you can't live without?
3 things I can't live without. Gosh. 3 things I can't live without. First of all is the team. It sounds cheesy, but I love going to work and I love interacting with everybody and I love what we do, and it's just really, really exciting. I think HubSpot, a tool, the data you get from it, the ability to, I could be sat outside having a coffee and I could be sending emails and closing deals. And I have to say now, more latterly, ChatGPT. Personally, especially with the custom GPTs, I'm saving half a day a week.
Okay.
I'm able to follow up on meetings and sales calls with so much more detail, so much quicker. That makes me better at my job,
Yeah.
gives me more time. And being an entrepreneur, I'm then thinking, what else should I be doing with my time?
Yeah, how
I'm
can I
doing
fill the
something
time?
else.
Yeah.
So those would be those three things. Yeah.
I'm gonna go slightly off tangent now from the quickfire questions, because I'd like, this piece around AI, ChatGPT is again, I suppose it's part of systems thinking, and how do you build it into the processes? Some examples of some business owners that might be out there thinking, I need to adopt AI, but I don't know how. You obviously clearly are using it for benefit. Any hints and tips?
You've got to invest the time. So when ChatGPT first hit the headlines, I basically spent probably a week over that Christmas playing with it. And I like tech, so that was like a pleasure.
Yeah.
For other people, it's not a pleasure. It's like, oh, really? But you've got to put the time into it. You've got to learn the difference between a one-shot prompt and just hoping it's going to come up with something, to instructing it and giving it what you really, the framework and the data points. And when you get through that, you realise it's an assistant. It's there to help.
It's a virtual PA type.
It's a virtual PA. And so I've really led the charge on that. And now we've got early adopters in the company. And now we're moving to the next stage now, where we're formalising things. So we have an AI policy that's in draft. So we need to talk about what is expected of our staff. We are then funding tools for them to use.
Okay.
So everyone's going to have a budget for AI tools, because we think that it's going to give them, it's going to assist them to be better at their job and give them more headspace.
Yeah.
There are risks. So one of them is, putting in data that's confidential, client data. So we'll have to ring fence the accounts and things like that. I think there's people passing things off as their own and being lazy and just getting the AI to do it and not QAing it themselves, and that is not allowed.
That's dangerous.
Dangerous. So that there's got to be some guardrails. Is it going to totally transform the world and put us all out of work? I doubt it.
No.
But it's without doubt enabling us to do things quicker and better.
In a labour scarce world, if it makes us more productive, then that's a great thing, isn't it?
Well, that's all we hear from the government, isn't it? The UK's productivity is a real problem.
Yeah, definitely.
I think done in the right way, it can be very, very exciting.
Perfect. Back to the quickfire questions. Describe yourself in 3 words, Adam.
Relentless. So I have a lot of energy, so I want to keep going. I'll keep going until I drop, which I've learnt to taper that.
Turn that switch down a little bit.
Not everyone works like that. I think inquisitive, especially around technology. So I'm very, very interested in what can be done and what this means and how can we apply this. And then I think I'm quite hopeful and optimistic. So I like to believe in better. Yeah. I believe that there's always better ways of doing things. Okay. I think we can always improve things. Yeah. And I think sometimes that generally that's a great thing. In the business, that can create friction because I'm not really settling. For what we're doing, there's got to be a better
period
way.
Of consolidation in the business would be frightful to you, wouldn't
Terrible consolidation. Well, let's keep going. That's what I'd say.
And if there was one thing that, if you reflect now on your business journey, you wish you learned earlier, what would that be?
Gosh, I'd say empathy.
Okay.
Yeah, being that kind of driven, relentless person, you can lose people on the journey. Yeah. So you can be very focused and very sure of the idea and very sure of the way forward. And I think the saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that I've really learned.
Brilliant. That's a really honest response. Thank you, Adam. So we always end the podcast with the question around definition of success. So, Adam, what's your personal definition of success?
Well, actually, Emma and I did an exercise probably 4 or 5 years into business where we did a mood board of what success looked like. Yeah. And I think one of them for me was being outside more. So
here we are recording a podcast in a garden. Yeah.
I think making my family proud.
Yeah.
So they can look up to that and being proud of the opportunities we've created for other people. I think is really important. And then I think there's freedom. Financial freedom, having the freedom to pick and choose what I get involved in and what we do as a business, and we're not tied down to something. And we've certainly someone like myself that wants that creative freedom. That's what success looks like. I don't think we went into it wanting to get rich or die trying.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we believe in what we're doing. We want to create a sustainable,
Yeah.
happy business.
Fantastic. So if people want to learn more about Adam, more about BBD Boom, more about HubSpot, how can they contact you? How can they find out more?
Well, please contact me on LinkedIn, contact me on through the website. I'd love to talk to anybody about systems thinking, about how to improve their processes and technology to enable them to grow faster.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. Thanks for being a wonderful guest on the Evolve to Succeed podcast.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Adam Lewis of the Evolve to Succeed podcast. Some great insights from Adam on how we should implement systems and processes and that systems thinking philosophy into our businesses. For those of you early in your startup journey, some really good hints and tips there for you as well. And for us all towards the end, those thoughts on AI and how he is implementing it within BBD Boom, I thought were really insightful. I really hope you're enjoying the Evolve to Succeed podcast, and if so, please help us by rating, reviewing and subscribing. For now, thanks for listening and see you soon.